Right now, you're barreling forward without clear visibility into a financial storm that has already slammed into the shoreline. Meanwhile, much of the mainstream media continues to downplay the danger, casually describing it as nothing more than a passing summer squall. You may have already noticed subtle warning signs, for sale signs lingering longer in your neighborhood, or sudden price drops appearing in your Zillow alerts. What's important to understand is that these clues barely scratch the surface. This isn't something looming on the horizon for 2026. We are already living through the earliest stages of a housing collapse, one that mathematical forecasting suggests could match, and in certain areas even surpass, the destruction of 2008. This isn't a call for fear or hysteria. It's a call to get ready. While national averages are being used to gloss over the damage, there are specific zip codes where home values are bleeding out at alarming speed, leaving homeowners shaken and investors wiped out. Today, we're taking a blunt, data-driven journey across the United States to examine 10 cities where the foundation hasn't just weakened, it has outright failed. We'll break down inventory surges that are hitting record levels, foreclosure activity that's quietly gaining momentum, and the precise dollar figures sellers are cutting just to attract a single offer. From a sun-soaked coastal haven that's becoming impossible to insure, to a once booming tech center where million-dollar properties now sit vacant, we're going to pull back the curtain and show what's rotting underneath. By the time we arrive at the #1 city on this list, you'll clearly see why experienced investors are retreating, parking their cash, and waiting on the sidelines. And before we start this road trip through America's most fragile housing markets, if you want to stay grounded in reality and truly understand what's happening in this economy, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Number 10. Tampa, Florida. Our journey kicks off in the Sunshine State, pulling into a city that once symbolized the peak of the pandemic-era relocation surge. As you move through Tampa's palm-lined neighborhoods, there's still a faint echo of the red-hot buying frenzy from just a couple of years ago. But the mood has clearly changed. What was once excitement has been replaced by a growing sense of unease. Almost immediately, the most striking feature is the overwhelming amount of homes sitting unsold, quietly baking in the Florida humidity. Recent figures from Redfin show that active listings across the Tampa metro area have jumped by nearly 40% compared to last year, an eye-opening surge that points to demand grinding to a halt. Buyers haven't just slowed down here, they've essentially stepped away altogether, squeezed by elevated interest rates and a runaway insurance crisis. Homeowners in the region are now dealing with insurance premiums that have doubled, tripled, and in some cases even quadrupled over the past 3 years. That translates into thousands of extra dollars added to monthly housing costs, expenses that never appear in standard mortgage estimates. This stealth form of inflation is crushing debt-to-income ratios for everyday families, triggering a wave of would-be buyers who simply no longer qualify for financing. As a result, sharp price reductions are becoming commonplace. Realtor.com data reveals that more than 28% of homes currently on the market in Tampa have seen a price cut within just the past month. That's nearly 1 out of every 3 sellers quietly admitting their original asking price was based on yesterday's hype, not today's conditions. Bidding wars have vanished, replaced by anxious sellers offering incentives that haven't been common in over a decade, like paying down mortgage rates just to secure a deal. Local real estate associations report that completed sales are down more than 12% year over year, pushing months of inventory into territory that has historically favored buyers. Meanwhile, investors who snapped up properties for short-term rentals are watching vacancy rates climb beyond 15%, leaving them little choice but to unload those homes into an already saturated market. Over Tampa, the clouds are darkening, and they're carrying a steady downpour of lost equity. Number 9. Las Vegas, Nevada. After leaving Florida's thick humidity behind, we cut west through the desert and arrive in a city built on risk, where purchasing a home right now may be the most dangerous wager of all. As we roll past the Strip and into the vast suburban sprawl, the glow of neon signs does little to conceal the fractures spreading through the housing market. Las Vegas has always lived on extremes, rising fast and falling hard with every economic cycle. At this moment, the swing is clearly heading downward. The local economy leans heavily on tourism and discretionary spending, and both are shrinking as inflation tightens household budgets nationwide. That slowdown is spilling directly into housing, leaving homeowners trapped in a market where high interest rates make exiting far more difficult than in past downturns. Fresh listing data paints a troubling picture. According to reports from the Las Vegas Realtors Association, the number of single-family homes sitting on the market without any offers has surged more than 35% compared to this time last year. That represents a huge buildup of supply in a region where long-term confidence is already strained by persistent water scarcity concerns. Even more alarming is what's happening on the employment front. As casinos and hotels quietly scale back staff, mortgage stress is beginning to surface. Data from Black Knight shows early-stage mortgage delinquencies in Nevada climbing steadily, now running about 10% above the national average. The connection is direct. When hospitality jobs disappear, housing stability quickly follows. Sellers here are watching their negotiating power evaporate almost overnight. Median home prices have essentially stalled, and once inflation is factored in, real values are already slipping backward. Nearly 42% of homes sold in the most recent quarter closed below their asking price. A complete reversal from the frenzy of bidding wars that once defined this market. Adding fuel to the fire, large institutional investors, who control a sizable share of Las Vegas's single-family homes, have shifted into sell mode. They're unloading properties to protect liquidity, flooding the market with inventory that everyday buyers simply can't absorb. Foreclosure activity is also beginning to rise, with Atom Data Solutions reporting a steady increase in new filings. In Las Vegas, the saying goes that the house always wins. But right now, it's the homeowners who are coming up short. Number 8. Nashville, Tennessee. We turn the wheel back toward the center of the country and roll into Music City, a place that for years seemed to play nothing but an upbeat anthem of non-stop growth. Nashville thrived as waves of new residents arrived, many escaping higher taxes elsewhere. But as we pass through areas like the Gulch, it's clear the song has ended, and the quiet that's followed is impossible to ignore. What's unfolding here is a textbook collision between oversupply and suddenly vanishing demand. Over the past 3 years, developers raced to construct high-end condos under the assumption that ultra-low interest rates would last forever. Now those projects are finished, and many of the units are sitting dark and empty. Data from the U.S. Census Bureau shows Nashville approved more housing units per capita than nearly any other southern city, and that flood of new supply is now hitting the market at the worst possible time, during a high-rate cycle. The market's ability to absorb new homes has fallen off a cliff. Local reports reveal that newly built homes are lingering for more than 90 days on the market in certain communities, a dramatic shift from just a few years ago. Builders, under mounting pressure, are rolling out incentives that feel increasingly frantic, including $30,000 in flex cash or mortgage rate buydowns of 2 full percentage points. Even with these aggressive offers, unsold inventory continues to stack up. Redfin data shows that the total number of homes for sale across the Nashville metro area has surged more than 45% compared to last year, one of the fastest inventory expansions anywhere in the country. That kind of imbalance forces sellers into direct competition, often slashing prices just to stay visible. Predictably, prices are starting to respond. For the first time in a decade, the median price per square foot is edging lower. Investors who snapped up move-in-ready homes with plans to cash in on short-term rentals are now running headfirst into saturation. Short-term rental analytics indicate that revenue per available room in Nashville is down roughly 18% year over year. That income squeeze is pushing smaller landlords into distress, triggering forced sales as rental earnings fail to cover mortgage payments. Adding to the pressure, expired listings are rising sharply, with more than 20% of homes failing to sell at all. In Nashville, the once optimistic melody has shifted into a slow blues, one defined by excess supply and disappearing equity. Number 7. Denver, Colorado. Our route bends northwest into the Rocky Mountains, climbing into the thin air of Denver, a city where home prices are still hovering at extreme heights, even as the market itself is rapidly losing momentum. For the better part of a decade, Denver enjoyed one of the steadiest appreciation streaks in the country. But that non-stop ascent has stretched affordability to a breaking point, creating a gap that most buyers can no longer cross. As you move through Denver's picturesque neighborhoods, a simple question hangs in the air. Who can realistically afford to live here now? The difference between the area's median household income and the income required to qualify for a median-priced home is among the widest in the interior United States. That imbalance has effectively frozen activity, with sales slowing to a crawl. Data from the Denver Metro Association of Realtors shows active inventory climbing to levels not seen since 2013. Nearly 10,000 homes are currently listed for sale, more than double what the market carried just a short time ago. Buyers have reached a firm limit, and it shows. Mortgage application volume in the region has fallen by more than 25%, a clear sign that demand has largely dried up. With fewer buyers in play, sellers are now forced to chase the market downward, trimming prices again and again in hopes of staying competitive. Sale-to-list price ratios have slipped below 99%, which means the typical seller is accepting a loss just to close a deal. Yet the most concerning signal may be coming from the rental side of the equation. As homeowners who can't sell attempt to rent instead, rental supply is swelling and vacancies are climbing. That excess inventory is pushing rents lower, and once rents decline, the math behind owning investment property in Denver starts to unravel. Cap rates turn negative, wiping out the financial justification for holding these homes. Concessions are also reaching record levels. More than half of all closed transactions now involve sellers covering closing costs, repairs, or other incentives. The balance of power has fully flipped. The era of waived inspections is over. Buyers are once again in control, and they're asking for everything. If you find value in these data-driven breakdowns that rarely make it into mainstream headlines, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Number 6. Phoenix, Arizona. We drop out of the mountains and back into the desert heat, returning to the southwest, this time to what has become ground zero for the iBuyer fallout. Phoenix was once a favorite playground for algorithm-driven giants like Opendoor and OfferPad, companies that scooped up homes by the thousands based on models that never accounted for a sharp market reversal. Now, as we move through the vast sprawl of Maricopa County, the consequences of that miscalculation are unfolding in real time. These corporate owners aren't sentimental about their properties. When they need cash, they slash prices without hesitation, and those aggressive cuts ripple outward, dragging down neighboring home values along with them. In some areas, you can literally pass block after block where every third house is marked by a fresh price reduction. The data backs up what's visible on the ground. Phoenix now ranks among the highest in the country for price drops, with Redfin reporting that nearly 38% of sellers have already lowered their asking price just to generate interest. This wave of reductions is being driven by a massive inventory overhang. Active listings have climbed to roughly 18,000 homes, an alarmingly high figure given the level of buyer demand. And it's not just the temperatures that feel suffocating here. The overall cost of living has surged, with rising utility bills tied to water scarcity and heavy air conditioning use making ownership far more expensive. Those added costs quietly reduce how much buyers can realistically afford to spend on the mortgage itself. Foreclosures are also beginning to surface more frequently. While the situation hasn't reached crisis territory yet, the direction is unmistakable. According to Atom Data Solutions, foreclosure filings across the county have jumped by 20% compared to last year. At the same time, the investor frenzy that helped push Phoenix home prices up by roughly 50% during the pandemic has completely evaporated. Investor purchases are down more than 45%, stripping away a major source of demand. With institutional buyers gone and iBuyers retreating, everyday families are left facing prices that no longer align with local incomes. As Phoenix searches for a new balance without the artificial support of corporate capital, the adjustment ahead looks both deep and painful. Number 5. Seattle, Washington. We head north into the Pacific Northwest, arriving in Seattle, a rain-soaked, tech-dominated city where the housing market lives and dies by the health of the technology sector. And right now, that engine is sputtering. As we pass the campuses of global tech powerhouses, the atmosphere feels subdued, mirroring the low clouds hanging overhead. The days of endlessly rising stock compensation and lavish hiring bonuses are gone, and with them has vanished the financial firepower that once propelled Seattle's home prices into the stratosphere. Widespread layoffs at major employers have sent a shock through the workforce, creating a deep sense of hesitation that has effectively frozen the housing ladder. According to data from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, year-over-year home sales have plunged by more than 22%. Pending sales are sitting at multi-year lows, signaling that the next wave of buyers simply isn't forming. But the most damaging force reshaping Seattle's housing market is the remote work migration. With fewer tech employees required to be in the office 5 days a week, many are choosing to leave King County altogether in search of more affordable lifestyles. That outward flow is steadily draining demand from the city's core. Census figures confirm that the metro area is now experiencing population decline, a fundamental headwind for real estate values that can't be undone quickly. Home prices are reacting fast. Case-Shiller data shows Seattle experiencing one of the sharpest pullbacks in the country, with values down roughly 10% from their peak in nominal terms, and even more once inflation is factored in. The luxury segment is seizing up as well. Properties priced above $2 million are lingering on the market for close to 60 days on average, gathering stigma. With each passing week, they remain unsold. When the top end of the market locks up, the cold inevitably spreads downward. With tech layoffs continuing to dominate headlines, the confidence needed to commit to a massive mortgage has evaporated. Seattle is no longer the seller's dream it once was. It's rapidly becoming a market where buyers hesitate and sellers wait in vain. Number 4. Boise, Idaho. We move inland to a city that became the ultimate emblem of the remote work surge. Boise's rise during the pandemic was unlike anything else in the country, and the aftermath has been just as extreme. As we drive through its quiet, orderly subdivisions, the remnants of that boom still linger, but what remains now feels more like a ghost town of inflated expectations. Boise's explosion in home prices was fueled almost entirely by out-of-state money, much of it flowing in from California. That stream has since dried up. Local residents were priced out long ago, and with remote workers no longer arriving in waves, there's simply no demand left to justify these valuations. Researchers at Florida Atlantic University have labeled Boise the most overvalued housing market in the nation, estimating that prices were more than 70% above fair value at the peak. Now the correction is biting hard. Data from Ada County shows median home prices down roughly 15% from their highs, and there's little evidence that the decline has found a floor. Inventory levels are flashing red. The number of homes for sale has tripled compared to just 2 years ago, leaving sellers who once felt rich realizing they're holding assets that are losing value by the month. New construction has turned especially brutal. Builders who broke ground on spec homes last year are now unloading them below their actual construction costs simply to clear debt. Price cuts of $50,000, $80,000, and even $100,000 on brand new homes have become common. Those discounts instantly crush comparable values for existing homeowners nearby. When a builder sells a new property for $500,000, the 10-year-old house next door no longer commands $550,000, no matter what it sold for last year. What's unfolding is a straight race downward, and Boise is nowhere near the finish line. Buyers who entered the market in 2022 are already underwater, stuck in homes they can't sell unless they're willing to write a check just to close the deal. Number 3. San Francisco, California. We head back to the coast, crossing the Golden Gate Bridge into a city confronting something far deeper than a typical housing downturn. San Francisco is staring down an existential unraveling, an urban doom loop that's feeding on itself. As we wind through its famously steep streets, the warning signs are impossible to miss. Boarded-up storefronts, empty sidewalks, and office towers that once buzzed with life now sitting eerily still. The collapse of commercial real estate here has been nothing short of devastating, and it's pulling the residential market down with it. When the downtown core empties out, nearby neighborhoods lose both their vibrancy and their reason to exist. Office vacancy rates in downtown San Francisco have surged past 30%, an all-time high. Without workers, the entire service ecosystem collapses, and the appeal of living in the city erodes rapidly. Residential housing data tells the same story. Figures from the California Association of Realtors show home sales in San Francisco down more than 25%. Even more jarring is what's happening to prices. Median condo values have fallen by over 12% year over year, wiping out years of accumulated equity for owners who once believed this market was untouchable. Concerns over public safety and homelessness are frequently cited as key drivers behind the mass departure. Migration data confirms that tens of thousands of residents are leaving, triggering a shrinking tax base that now threatens the city's ability to fund basic services. Stack that against high interest rates, a weakening tech sector, and a noticeable decline in quality of life, and you're left with a housing market that has almost no structural support. We're now seeing high-end homes trade for as much as $1 million less than what buyers paid just a few years ago. This isn't a pause, it's capitulation. I'd be interested to hear your take. Would you ever consider buying the dip in San Francisco, or do you think the city's best days are behind it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Number 2. Austin, Texas. We head south into the Lone Star State, arriving in the city once heralded as the next Silicon Valley. Austin now finds itself in the middle of the most aggressive housing price correction of any major metro in the country. As we pass through massive new subdivisions on the city's outskirts, the sheer volume of construction tells the story immediately. Austin built far too much, far too quickly. The supply pipeline here is enormous, and all of that inventory is hitting the market at the worst possible moment. In suburban neighborhoods, available signs seem to appear on nearly every block, offering a clear visual snapshot of oversupply. Zillow data shows that the number of homes for sale in the Austin metro area is sitting nearly 40% above pre-pandemic levels, a staggering imbalance. Sellers aren't just competing with one another, they're up against thousands of brand new homes that builders are urgently trying to move. As a result, prices are falling fast and the declines are picking up speed. The median sale price in Austin has dropped close to 10% year over year, the steepest decline anywhere in the United States. This goes far beyond a mild correction. It's a full-scale reset of what homes in this region are actually worth. The tech slowdown that's hammering the West Coast is being felt just as strongly here. High-profile employers like Tesla and Oracle, which relocated with great fanfare, have pulled back on hiring, eroding the demand that once justified sky-high prices. Homes that sparked bidding wars and drew 50 offers in 2021 are now lingering for 100 days or more without a single bite. The rental market is unraveling as well. Rents have fallen by roughly 6%, squeezing investors and forcing many to exit. On top of that, property taxes in Texas remain notoriously high. As values slide, homeowners are stuck paying tax bills based on yesterday's inflated assessments while holding assets that are steadily losing value. Austin has become a live case study in what happens when a housing bubble bursts, a reminder that even in Texas, growth doesn't rise forever. Number 1. San Jose, California. We end our road trip exactly where the modern tech boom was born, in the heart of Silicon Valley. San Jose earns the top spot on this list because the sheer dollar losses unfolding here are almost unimaginable. This is the most expensive housing market in the United States, and right now, it's locking up in place. As we pass through neighborhoods where an unassuming ranch-style home carries a $2 million price tag, the quiet feels heavy and unsettling. San Jose's housing market depends almost entirely on stock market-driven wealth. With ongoing volatility in the tech sector, that wealth effect has largely evaporated. Many residents are asset-rich on paper but cash-strapped in reality, and the resulting liquidity squeeze is severe. Affordability here isn't strained, it's mathematically broken. To purchase a median-priced home today, a buyer would need an annual income approaching $450,000, instantly excluding roughly 99% of the population. Unsurprisingly, sales activity has collapsed to historic lows. Transactions are down about 40% compared to typical years, leaving a market that's barely functioning at all. Sellers are frozen in place, unwilling to give up 3% mortgage rates in exchange for loans closer to 7%. This lock-in effect is choking off supply, not because demand is strong, but because homeowners refuse to list. Even so, prices are still drifting lower due to how weak buyer demand has become. Average monthly mortgage payments have climbed to around $14,000, a level that's unsustainable even for highly paid senior engineers. The foreclosure risk here is unlike anywhere else. If the tech downturn deepens and high-income earners face extended layoffs, any wave of foreclosures would involve multi-million-dollar homes hitting the market, instantly crushing comparable values. San Jose represents the absolute peak of the housing bubble, which means it also has the longest way to fall. When the tech giants stumble, this market doesn't just feel it, it gets slammed. The housing market isn't one single entity. It's thousands of local markets stitched together, and the 10 cities we visited today offer a preview of what may be coming next for the rest of the country. A crash in 2026 isn't some far-off possibility. It's already a lived reality for millions of Americans in these zip codes. If this tour was helpful, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, pass it along to anyone considering a home purchase, and subscribe for more unfiltered economic analysis. Thanks for watching, and drive safe out there.